last week I told you that I'm going to discuss the UCP 600 once again, because we know in international trade operations, the main thing for DIT class people, for you guys, majority you are working with banks in international trade departments, whether you work in the international trade department or people like Sumudu and all. I mean, even if you are working in a company, yeah, you have to have a thorough knowledge of the UCP 600. URC 522, of course, it's easy for you to understand. But UCP 600, there are so many interpretations, meanings. So you have to have a in-depth knowledge with the UCP 600, right? And now, since I have covered most of the key areas, core areas, now I'm doing this ancillary areas with you. Like last week we did counter trade, entrepot trade, Apikalane, last week.
Yes, sir.
Yeah, okay. Now today I will be asking more questions, right? On two things. You guys have gone through the UCP. We have discussed UCP, and today is something like a revision, right? So I might ask you many questions. It's two-way. Another thing is for me to be comfortable that I am with you. Make a disconnect then. So let's, when I ask you something, please give me the feedback. And this in-depth knowledge is a very, very important thing to DIT students. Why I am telling you this, the next step I'm going to do with you is the ISBP, discussing of ISBP, International Standard Banking Practice. That will be a very complicated area. That complicated area, for you to understand ISBP, you have to have a thorough knowledge about the UCP 600. Right? That's the main reason why I'm discussing this with you. Because students, I'm a little bit disappointed. I'm a little bit disappointed with some of the people who have answered the last time exam. That's my last batch. Some are okay. UCP, URC questions, some are okay. Most of the people, they are just writing all garbage, not to the point, right? And we have spent about 7-8 months. I have preached everything. I have shared all my knowledge with you guys. And if you are going to write like a grade 4 student, right, then sometimes you feel very disappointed. Why I am teaching these people? Because it cannot be, because most of the guys, they have done it properly. At least even if you miss the relevant article, at least the message has been given. And also with a proper writing skill. Some are missing the writing skills as well as the subject matters, nothing. So it is a very, very disappointing thing, right? Because of that, I thought might as well, I'm going to discuss this UCP 600 again with you, right? Okay. Discussion of UCP 600 article. I'm not going to read the articles with you. You all are having the UCP 600 with you. You better read it, right? I'm just going through the overview, right? If you have any questions, you can ask me. Today is the day you have to ask questions as many as possible. try to ask all the gray areas you are having on UCP 600. We'll discuss, right? Sometimes if I am not sure, at least then we can have a discussion, right? So let's see. When we are going to have an overview of UCP 600 articles, right? The general provision and definitions will be Article 1 to 5. Then the liabilities and responsibilities of the banks from Article 6 to 30. Examination of documents, very, very important, Article 14, 15, 16, and 17. Right? Then documents, 18, and the transport documents, 19 to 25. Then comes insurance, 28. Right? Miscellaneous provisions, 29 to 33. Disclaimers, 34 to 37. And transferable credit and assignments, 39, 38, and 39. Right? This presentation is not prepared by me. I got it when I was searching the thing. Then I thought it's a very good one. But this was only their main intention was to have comparison between the UCP 500 and UCP 600, right? So that also is good for you people. Most of you don't have any idea about UCP 600. I don't think anybody has worked under UCP 600. Anybody in this class? Is there anybody in this class worked under UCP 500? That means before 2007. Before 2007. Or in other? I don't think. Right? And UCP 500, we had 49 articles. Now we are having only 39 articles. Right? Right. Article 1. Article 1. It says examples of express indication. It says the credit is subject to Uniform Customs and Practice for Documented Credits. 2007 revision, ICC publication number 600. When you are sending the SWIFT message, we have to type. We are not going to type everything. If you are sending a letter or something, if you are using telex or letter, then you will say this credit is subject to the Uniform Customs and Practices for Documented Credits. 2007 revision, ICC publication number 600. Right? Nowadays, it's very, very rare. This telex or letter. 99% of the LCs, we use SWIFT. Under SWIFT, field 40E, now all the trade guys, right? 40E is applicable rules. There you don't have to type everything. You just say UCP latest version, perfectly all right. If you are sending the SWIFT today, and if you mention UCP latest version, then what is the UCP version we are use? What is the version we are going to use? Hello?
UCP. The latest one. 600.
Latest version kya namukad? UCP
600.
UCP 600. This credit is subject to UCP 600. I think I have told you sometime back, I have come across a Nigerian LC. It was a male LC, which they have mentioned. This credit is subject, normally we type, this credit is subject to UCP 600. ඒක type කරලා තිබුණේ this credit is not subject to UCP 600. Very easily you miss that. And that particular part is in very small font. Very what is font එක දුන්නේ like font size 4 or 5 ඒ වගේ පොඩි එකක් මේක දුන්නේ චූටියට. But when you see 600, we assume that it is under 600. No. Right? So you have to be very careful. But if you are doing the LC using the Swift, then you don't have to worry because automatically it will be subject to UCP 600. If you are opening the LC under Swift code, what is it? What is the Swift code? LC के कोड का मतलब है LC
40E
MT 700.
MT 700. MT 700. The field is 40E, but the Swift code is for Swift type. Swift type is MT 700, right? Okay. In examples of an exclusion or modification to a rule, under Article 1, when reading the article, right? Sometimes you will say, shall we go through the article? It says, when the text of the credit expressly indicates that it is subject to these rules. That is the most important thing. Sometimes we'll have to do exclusions. Contrary to Article 32 of UCP, this credit remains valid for subsequent installments despite any shipment or drawing not made within the period allowed. Right? Now, the thing is, when we are opening revolving LC, there we have to say Article 32 excluding Article 32. It is subject to UCP 600 excluding Article 32. Article 32 is a shipment or drawings in installments. We are not going to use that one. When we are opening LCs for revolving LCs, then we have to omit that one, right? So it is very important. ඔබට මතකද අපි කතා කළා කලින් කතා කළා දැන් ඔන්න රිවයිස් කර එනවා. Then sub-article 28C does not apply. What is sub-article 28C? Turn it and see what is sub-article 28C. Under insurance documents and coverage, 28C is cover notes will not acceptable. Cover notes will not accepted. That is the article. Now, if you put a exclusion or modification to the rule to say sub-article 28C does not apply, what do you mean by that?
It means that cover notes will be accepted?
Yeah, it means that cover notes will be acceptable. Normally, අපි කරන්නම නැහැ cover notes ගන්නම නැහැ. But between the buyer and the seller and the banks, if they have some agreement, then they will do. And then in that case, that exclusion, we have to put it specifically, right? Then this one, documents must not be dated earlier than the date of the issuance of this credit. Normally, documents can be dated before the issuance of the credit. There's no hard and fast rule for that. But if you want to see all the documents are dated after the issuance of the LC, then we have to mention documents must not be dated earlier than the date of the issuance of this credit. Right? ඒක යන්න ඕනේ Article 8(1) එකෙන් ආවට මේ අන්තිම එක යන්නේ under conditions. Terms and conditions වලට ඔක අපිට දාපියක්. Right? Okay. Overview of Article 2, that is definitions. Article 2 covers the definitions. Certain terms are defined so that they provide references when such terms are used in the articles. Right? මේක අර මේ definitions කියලා දාලා දෙන UCP 500 articles, part of Article 2, 7, 8, 9, 10. එකත් එක මොකක්ද හොඳයි මේ UCP 500 එකේ මේක අච්චාරක් වගේ තිබුණේ ඒවා දැන් ඔක්කොම අරන් අපි එකකට දාලා තියෙනවා. User friendly, right? Just omit those things, right? UCP, wherever UCP 500 is mentioned, just omit it. Then advising bank, applicant, right? මේක හරිය ලස්සනට දීලා තියෙනවා. මම ඒකයි මේ presentation එක ඔයගොල්ලොත් එක්ක මම share කරගන්නේ. Under A, advising bank, applicant. ඒවා තියෙනවා. B, banking day, beneficiary. You won't miss anything. Under C, we are talking about compliant presentation, confirmation, confirming bank, credit. Under Article 2, under definition, it's there. H means honor. I, issuing bank. N, negotiations and nominated bank. P, presentations and presenter. All these definitions are being given under Article 2. Right? In the Article 2, it says banking day. The banking day on which a bank is regularly open for performance of an act subject to these rules. Day on which a bank is regularly open for performance of an act subject to these rules. If the guy is going to the bank on Saturday, if the bank is closed on Saturday, is it a banking day?
No.
No. Now tell me something. Sampath Bank, NDB Bank, who else? They are having 24/7 24 hours, 7 days branches, 24 hours, 7 days branches, ඔයගොල්ලන්ගේ තියෙනවනේ සම්පත් NDB ඒවා තියෙනවා. 24/7 කියලා ගහන branches තියෙනවා. ඒ කියන්නේ bank එක open නේ, Saturday Sunday open. So are we accepting trade documents? For trade documents, is it a banking day or not? Sampath Bank. Huh? The bank is open.
No. No.
No. No. Because Sampath Bank trade is not working. They are not working. Right? Generally, bank is closed, but they have separate branches which are open. එකයි මේකයි mix කරගන්න එපා. NDB Bank. What is your banking hours? NDB Bank. I know there are people from NDB. What is your banking hours? Sampath? Hello?
It's 9 to 3, sir.
9 to 3. 9 to 3 මොකේද පුතේ? What's the bank?
NDB.
NDB 93. Now, I think you are in the trade department, no?
No, sir, I'm from branch banking.
Now you are from branch bank, right? For your trade department, if a person gives the document, he brings the document at 5 o'clock. Is it treated as they have received the documents on the same day? No, we should not do it, right? And I think then because of the customer service, competition, and all those things, even if the customer brings a document at 7 o'clock, the big shots will call you and ask you to accept the document and negotiate it and send the documents on send the documents to the other bank, right? But there is exceptional cases. But normally, after the banking hours, also we will not entertain any documents, right? Banking day. Compliant presentation. In the this one, it says compliant presentations. Means a presentation. I'm just reading. Means a presentation that is in accordance with the terms and conditions of the credit, the applicable provisions of these rules and international standard banking practice. International standard banking practice. So the compliant presentation, in summary, there is a presentation in accordance with terms and conditions of the credit, applicable UCP provisions, international standard banking practice. International standard banking practice. What is this international standard banking practice? International standard banking practice. What is that? Well, ISBP කියලා ඉගෙන ගන්න ඕනේ. ISBP. දැන් ISBP දැන් යන්නේ කීයද? 758 නේද අපි යන්නේ දැන්. ISB 758 එන්නේ. That's 781 හරි 781. Right? Why we have not mentioned, why not applicable reference to ISBP publication 781 කියලා? අයිය අපි කියන්නේ නැත්තේ. Why it is referring only to international standard banking practice? Is it referring to the ISBP? Speak up. They talk about international standard banking practice, but they have not mentioned අපි කියනවා UCP නම් subject to UCP 600 කියලා. Here we are not saying referring to ISBP 781 කියලා. අපි කියන්නේ ඇයි? Why is that?
It's it is a guide for document takers.
Yeah. What was our name?
Ajit.
Ajit from commercial bank there. Sampath. Ajit, you are perfectly correct. You are perfectly correct. මට හදන්න දෙයක් නැහැ. ඔයක දැන් ඔයක රිෆයින් කරමු අපන්. පොඩ්ඩක් මේ ෆයින් ටියුන් කරමු අපි. ඔයගේ ආන්සර් එක. Fine tune karam. But your answer is correct. You are one of the guys I'm relying to get a මට දැන් මං මාක් කරපියා මට ඒස් 3ක් තියෙනවා. ඔයගොල්ලන්ගෙන් එන්න ඕන අගානේ ඒස් එකම එක අවුරුද්දක් විතරක් දුන්නා. මාර ෆයිට් එකක් දුන්නා. ඒස් 8ක්ද කොහෙද තිබ්බේ? ඒස් 8ක්ද 8ක්ද 10ක්ද? You won't believe ultimately IBSL also said, is it all right if they check the answers of those people who got A's? මොකද මමයි පේපර් එක හැදුවේ මමයි මාක් කළේ. එහෙම කළා A's 10ක් තියෙනවා කියන්නේ. හිතන්නේ මම මගේ ළමයින්ට මම ලකුණු දීලායි කියලා. ඉන්ඩිපෙන්ඩන්ට් එකෙන් චෙක් කරලා බලනකොට අනේ සර් තව ටිකක් ලකුණු වැඩි කරන්න දුන්නා කියලා. අන්තිමේදී B කන්ට්‍රියලත් ඕනනම් දෙන්න පුළුවන් නේ කියලා මම කිව්වා නෑ නෑ ඔය ඇති. රයිට් එච්චරම ෆයිට් එකක් තිබුණා. මේ ඕගොල්ලන්ගෙත් මට ඕනේ ඒ වගේ ෆයිට් එකක්. Why we are not in ISBP 781 කියලා? Because ISBP is not a rule. It is only a guideline. It is only a guideline. Ajit has mentioned it very correctly. It's only a guideline. ඒකෙන්ද අපි කියන්නේ අපි කියන්නේ international standard banking practice. Right? And when you are checking the documents, never when you are quoting the discrepancies, don't mention the ISBP. That's a guideline for the document checkers. But it is not a rule. But if there's any query or fight, dispute, then you can quote it. That's a different thing. You can't quote it as a, when you're quoting the frequencies, you can't do it as per para 2 of ISBP. Right? So it's only a guideline. Honor. Honor means for credit available, honor is how we are going to honor the credit. For credit available by side payment, we say pay at site. Deferred payment, incur deferred payment undertaking, pay at maturity. Acceptance, accept bill of exchange, pay at maturity. What is the difference between deferred payment and acceptance? What is the difference between deferred payment and acceptance?
Undertaking to pay. Undertaking to pay.
The other one also undertaken to pay. What is the main difference?
Deferred, the draft is not submitted.
Acceptance?
Draft is given.
Deferred payment, we never give a draft.
Yes.
Yes. Very good. Perfect answer. Tell me your name.
Brightney.
Brightney. Very good, Brightney. Deferred payment, there's no draft involved. No bill of exchange. Only an undertaking to pay at maturity. Acceptance, accepted bill of exchange. There's a bill of exchange. But both pay at maturity. Long time back, before the introduction of UCP 600 and the UCP 500, there was a court case, Bank Santander versus Bank Paribas. Bank Santander versus Bank Paribas. ඒ කේස් එක ආවෙත් ඔය වගේ. Deferred payment undertaking එකක් දීලා තියෙනවා. But payment didn't came through. Right? එතකොට අපිට නඩු දාගන්න ටිකක් අමාරුයි. ඒ bill of exchange එකක් නැහැ. In that case, why the banks are opted for deferred payment rather than going to do the transactions under acceptance? Even some countries, they prefer to have deferred payment. Some customers, they prefer to have deferred payment, not under acceptance. Why? Why? මේ හරි අපි කරලා තියෙන්නේ. මට මතකයි මේවා මම ඔයගොල්ලන්ට කිව්වා. I think even you people, if you are going to write the exam, there won't be a much difference. If I ask you that question, what is the answer? Why some countries go for deferred payment rather than going for acceptance? The reason is some countries is for bill of exchange. Under acceptance, we had to have a bill of exchange. For bill of exchange, there is a stamp duty. Sometimes 2%, 3% stamp duty. Italy, most of the European countries, there are stamp duty. Right, stamp duty and 2% stamp duty can baragana bill of exchange. Because of that, they prefer to do the transaction under deferred payment. There is a risk, but everything based on the trust between the buyer and the seller. අනිත් ඒවා තියෙන ඔක්කොම අනිත් monitoring part එකක් තියෙනවා. Right? Negotiation means giving value. Purchased by the nominated bank of drafts drawn on another bank and not documents under a compliant presentation. That is negotiation. Or by advancing or agreeing to advance funds to beneficiary. ඒක තියෙනව නේද අපි මේ negotiation definition again. Negotiation means the purchase of the nominated bank of drafts drawn on a bank other than the nominated bank and or documents under a compliant presentation by advancing or agreeing to advance funds to the beneficiary on or before the banking day on which reimbursement is due to the nominated bank. Right? What do you mean by advancing or agreeing to advance funds to the beneficiary? Sometimes we give the value immediately, purchased by the nominated bank of the drafts. Right? If it is a compliant presentation. The other one is advancing or agreeing to advance funds to the beneficiary on or before the banking day, which the reimbursement is due to the nominated bank. I'm talking about the second part, right? If we negotiate a bill on 1st of September, right? Then it is due to the nominated bank. I mean, maybe usance bill. The money will be received by the nominated bank or the negotiating bank on 1st of November. right? Now, either you can give the money immediately, or by advancing or agreeing to advance funds to the beneficiary. We said we negotiate. I mean, immediately, when we negotiate and when we send the document, the issuing bank will accept the draft and send the confirmation to us. Accept color, draft a confirmation again. Then we can discount the bill and advance the money to the beneficiary. You are in a very comfortable position. You are in a very, very comfortable position, right? So you can discount the bill at that time. But before the due date. That means before 1st of November. 1st of November settle करना क्या है एक negotiation का limit, right? Okay. Nominated bank. What do you mean by nominated bank? The bank with which the credit is available, or any bank in the case of a freely available credit. When NDB Bank opens a LC, they will say Standard Chartered Dubai as a nominated bank. Standard Chartered Dubai as a nominated bank. So then the nominated bank is Standard Chartered Dubai. They have been nominated by the issuing bank to negotiate the documents. Or they can mention when they open LC, negotiation with any bank or freely negotiable credit. Freely negotiable credit. Imagine negotiation with any bank. Then any bank in Dubai can negotiate the document. ඒක තේරුණාද ඔයගන්ට? Right? Right. Then if I say LC is nominated to Standard Chartered Dubai, can National Bank of Dubai negotiate the document?
Can't.
Can't. Any other answers? Any other answers? Any other answers? Answer is
They
no.
they can't negotiate it, but they can present document. No?
They can present document. If they want, they can, any other bank, the National Bank of Dubai also can negotiate, but at their own risk, because the issuing bank has never appointed them to negotiate the document. They have never requested Dubai Bank to give value. Right? දීලා යනවනම් දීලා සල්ලි ආවට කමන්නේ. But if there's any issues, then they will not responsible. Issuing bank එකයි කියන විදිහට නෙමෙයි වැඩ කරන්නේ. Right? But normally the banks won't act like that. But that is why we say we nominate a bank, dedicated bank. Then make a දාලා තියෙනවා issuing bank, we issue the LC, and then we advise the LC, and the advising bank will advise to the beneficiary. Advising bank will advise LC to the beneficiary. then the beneficiary, if it is a nominated bank, right? LC available with any bank now? Any bank is a nominated bank. Any bank is nominated bank. But if the LC is restricted to Standard Chartered, why? Then it is Standard Chartered is the name, the nominated bank as per the LC. Right? And make up practically when a bank negotiate but at their own risk. Because of that, banks won't take that unnecessary, undue risk. Right? Presentation. Presentation means delivery of documents to issuing bank or nominated bank, or the documents so delivered. May question, may presentation again, closely make all the nitty-gritty things. It is included here. The presentation. That's why I took it to use it for you. And it is very nicely presented with animations. It's got a cartoons and the lazy thin. A delivery of documents to issuing bank or nominated bank, or the documents so delivered. The presenter means party that makes a presentation. Party that make a presentation. Now, the beneficiary is the presenter. The beneficiary will present the documents to the nominated bank. Right? They are also a presenter. Why? Because they also present, they also do a presentation of documents to the issuing bank. Right? You got it? Article 3. Article 3. Article 3 එක නම් ගොඩක් ඔයගන්ට එනවා questions වලට. Article 3 එකේ ගොඩක් ඒවා ISPP එකේ අපි discuss කරනවා. Because of that, you have to have a thorough knowledge about the Article 3. A lot of people, they just omit this. Right? ඔයගන්ට questions ගොඩක් එන්න පුළුවන්. Multiple choice questions වලට එමු ගොඩක් අපි මං use කරනවා Article 3 එක. Right? Article 3, where applicable, words in singular include the plural and vice versa. Right? The singular plural අපි ඒවා ගන්නෙ නැහැ. Right? The words in the singular include the plural and vice versa. No more S's. Document instead of documents. S එක නොතිබ්බයි කියලා ඒක කියන්න බෑ. මේක singular කියලා කියන්න බෑ. මේක plural කියලා කියන්න බෑ. අපි ඒවා ගණන් ගන්නෙ නැහැ. The credit is irrevocable even if no indication to that effect. The credit is irrevocable even if no indication to that effect. How? How? Interpretations in Article 3 එකේ තියෙනවා. A credit is irrevocable even if there is no indication to that effect. Irrevocable document credit කියලා අපි නොකියුවට we take it as irrevocable. In other words, if you want to make it a revocable document credit, then you have to specifically mention revocable. Otherwise, if it is not specifically mentioned revocable, we treat it as irrevocable. Any questions on that? Right? Okay. Make it Article 3 ka logic thine. For determining maturity date, the words from and after exclude the date mentioned. ඒක නම් ISBP එකත් අපි ඉගෙන ගන්නවා පස්සේ. මේ ඔයගොල්ලන්ට මේ කලින් කියලා තියෙනවා. For determining maturity date, the words from and after excludes the date mentioned. Now, for example, 30 days from shipment date. 30 days from shipment date. What is the shipment date? 1st August 2007. 1st August 2007 is the shipment date. Right? Then, 30 days after shipment date, 30 days from shipment date is similar to 30 days after shipment date. Right? The 1st August, for the calculation, we exclude the date mentioned. The date mentioned is 1st August. Shipment date is 1st August. ඒක exclude කරලා තමයි 30 days ගණන් කරලා ඇඟිල්ලෙන් ගණන් කරලා බලන්නේ. Right? So the maturity date will be 31st August 2007. First වලින් නම් නෙමෙයි calculations පටන් ගන්න. Second, third, fourth කියලා ගන්න. Right? Very important ඔයගොල්ලන්ට මේවා මේ due dates එම හදා ගන්නකොට. For determining a period of shipment, the words from and after have different meanings. If it is to determine a period of shipment, then the words from and after have different meanings. From includes the date mentioned and after exclude the date mentioned. Make avilla for determining the maturity date. Maturity date again, from and after we exclude the date mentioned there. But when it comes to shipment, right? Then they have different meanings. From includes the date mentioned and after exclude the date mentioned. Right? Shipment to be effected from August 10th. Shipment to be effected from August 10th. From August 10th. Then the earliest shipment date is August 10th. From includes the date mentioned. Date mentioned 10th. Is a 10th to ekka තමයි පටන් ගන්න. එහෙනම් when the earliest shipment date starts from August 10th. Right? Shipment to be effected after August 10th. After August 10th. After August 10th, then earliest shipment date is August 11th. Any questions on this? Any questions? Right. Article 4, credit versus contracts. Article 4, credit versus contract. Independence principle. This is a very important principle in letter of credit operations. Independence principle. That is, LC is a separate transaction from the underlying contract. LC is a separate transaction from the underlying contract. Right? Can you please read credit versus contracts? Article 81. The independence principle is a very, very important thing in letter of credit operations. LC is a separate transaction from the underlying contract, right? And the banks should discourage any attempt to include contract as an integral part of LC, right? You should always discourage any attempt to include contract as integral part of the LC. I have seen in some banks, some people, departments, even at Standard Chartered Colombo, when I was working, I have seen some officers, some officers, they are very good officers. They are too good. They're too good. Too good in the sense they go all out of the way to help the people, customers. If you are going to help the customers out of the way, one day you will get it back. Because customers will only think of them. They don't think about the bank. Right? So I have seen sometimes the customers come to the bank and sit with the officer and they are going through certain documents. My officer is going through the contract of the customer. The customer is asking certain questions. So advice karna. They go out of the way to help the people. Right? You should never do that. You should never do that. You have nothing to do with the contract, sales contract. Who are responsible for the sales contract? Who are the parties to the sales contract?
Buyer and the seller, sir.
Buyer and the seller. Yeah, buyer and the seller. Buyer and the seller. That's it. Right? We have nothing to do with that. Who are the parties to LC? Who are the parties to LC? Who are the parties to LC?
Beneficiary,
Yeah.
issuing bank,
Applicant.
Issuing bank.
confirming bank,
Wrong. Verdi. Kali Okamava. Parties. Then the other person.
issuing bank and collecting bank.
No. Wrong. When the collecting bank collecting bank is under
Confirming bank, not collecting.
collection. Issuing bank and the confirming bank. Wrong. I need the complete answer. Who are the parties to a documented credit contract?
Issuing bank, beneficiary, confirming bank.
Very good. Issuing bank,
Beneficiary,
and confirming bank, if any. If there's any confirming bank, yes. Otherwise, only issuing bank and the beneficiary. So, the sales contract, the parties are beneficiary and applicant. Is applicant is a party to the LC contract?
No, sir.
No. In that case, we have nothing to do with the applicant or the beneficiary. Right? They can a contract, details as per contract number 1, 2. And the other thing, always discourage any attempt to include contract as integral part of the LC. මේක හරියට වෙනවා. මේක හරියට වෙනවා. මේ ගියලා කියනවා දැන් එන හැල්ලක් කියන්නේ නැතුව ඒගොල්ලෝ කියනවා as per the contract number 1 2 3 which is appended and formed an integral part of the credit. Banks වලට ඒවා check කරන්න බෑ. මේ අනික් මිනිස්සුන්ගේ credit check කරන්න බෑ. Right? ඒවා දාන්න එපා. You have to discourage. Right? If the customer is insisting, ask him to go to some other bank. If that bank is prepared to open the LC the way the customer wants it, let them have the bank. Right? Right. Article 5. Documents versus goods, services, and performance. The banks deal with documents and not with goods. Right? Or services or performance to which the documents may relate. Right? In credit operations, all parties concerned deal with the documents and not with the goods, services, or other performances which the documents may relate. Article 4 UCP 400 500 again. එහෙම තිබ්බා. දැන් මේක එනවා අර treat operations all parties concerned කියන එක පැත්තකට කරලා අපි articles මේ 600 එලිම කියලා තියෙන්නේ banks deal with documents and not with goods. Right? මේක අපි දන්නවා. Article 6 availability, expiry date and place for presentation. Availability, expiry date, and place for presentation. Right? LC must state the bank with which it is available, or that it is available with any bank, available with a nominated bank, also available with the issuing bank. Right? State that it is available by site payment, deferred payment, acceptance or negotiation. Right? Not be available by draft or on applicant. Not be available by draft on applicant. Right? For example, available with issuing bank by deferred payment. Available with issuing bank by deferred payment. Available with bank XYZ by payment. Right? By payment. Available with any bank by negotiation. ඔය විදිහට තමයි අපි availability එක LC එකේ දෙන්නේ. Then what do you mean by not be available by draft on applicant? LC must not available by draft on applicant. Why? අය අපි එහෙම දාන්නේ නැත්තේ. Hey, Roger. ඇයි ඒක අපි not be available by draft on applicant කියලා දාන්න නැත්තේ? We should not mention. Any reason? Come on, lamai. බොහොම සරල ප්‍රශ්නයක් මම අහලා තියෙනවා.
So is it because the draft should always be on the beneficiary, not the applicant? Is that the case?
Draft is always on the beneficiary. Beneficiary is the one who is preparing the draft. Then how can it be on beneficiary? What a mix up now. දන්නවා ඔක තමයි අපි ළමයින්ට වෙන්නේ උත්තරේ ලියාලනකොට පොඩ්ඩක් යහට මැටෙනවා. I'm 100% sure you know the answer. I'm 100% sure. You know the answer. Normally, අපි drafts available with කාටද දාන්නේ?
Issuing bank, sir.
Issuing bank. Drafts is always drawn on the issuing bank. Why we are not drawn on the applicant? දැන් මේකට උත්තරම අපි දැන් පොඩ්ඩක් ඉස්සලා කතා කළා. ඒවෙන් ගන්න තියෙන්නේ මේව UCP එකේ නෑ. But practically now we have discussed it just now. Why we are not drawing the draft on the applicant?
Applicant is not party of DC.
Yes, Adam, that's perfect. That's the answer. Because the applicant is not a party to the credit. Right? Again, the LC must not be available by draft on applicant always. Right? Okay. Expiry date. Expiry date means last day for presentation of documents. Last day for presentation of documents. Place for presentation, bank with which the LC is available, or any bank if the LC is available with any bank, and issuing bank. And issuing bank. Right? බැරි වෙලාවත් අපි කිව්වොත් LC available with any bank. LC available with any bank. Then what are the place for presentation? What are the place for presentation? LC available with any bank.
Any bank.
Any bank. Or
Issuing bank.
issuing bank. Issuing bank is the ultimate paying bank. Issuing bank is the ultimate paying bank. Before I forget, one small request from you all guys, right? This particular presentation, actually, I didn't want to put it to the share it with you guys. And presentation but by mistake I have uploaded it. I want you not to share it with anybody else, because if anybody is having this presentation, can just teach the others. පොඩ්ඩක් හරි දැනගෙන. ඉතින් ඒකින්ද ඒ වැරදි තැන්වලට ගියොත් එහෙම අපරාධයක් මේක. ඒකින්ද මේ සමහර ප්‍රසන්ටේෂන් මගේවත් හරි පරිස්සම් වෙන්නේ ඒකයි. Do you know that some of my presentations අද වෙනකොට මම දවස් ගණන් රෑ නිදි මරාගෙන හදන presentations, මුද්දායක් විතර කියවලා හදන presentations, මේ අනුරාධපුර, අම්පාර, බැටි ඒ පැත්තේ මේ බැංකර්ස් ක්ලාසස් වල උගන්වන මිනිස්සු. මේක තියෙනවනේ සිස්ටම් එකකින් ඒක අරගන්නවා ඊට පස්සේ ඒක හදලා ඒක එමු කරනවා. right මේක නිකන් corporate law එකක් හරි දුකයි. ඒකින්ද තමයි මොකද වැඩි කට්ටියට යනවා කියලා. ඒගොල්ලන්ට කිසි මානසිකකුත් නැහැ නිකම්ම කරන්න පුළුවන්. right ඒකෙන්ද පුළුවන් තරම් මේවා ෂෙයා කරන එකෙන් වලකින්න අපේ එක මගේ එක මේකක් වුණත් හැම එකම මගේ අනිත් ඒවාත් ෂෙයා කරන එකෙන් පොඩ්ඩක් be careful. right the last 2-3 weeks I spent about hours and hours to prepare another document which I'm going to discuss with you as the last one. Right, there's the latest exchange control regulations, including the latest one issued on 8th of September. About 604 items came under margin requirement. right එතනට එනකම්ම බොහොම අමාරුවෙන් හදලා තියෙන එකක් තියෙනවා. මම ඔයගොල්ලෝ එක්ක ඩිස්කස් කරනවා. ඒක ඉච්චර මහන්සිලා හදන එක අපරාධේ misuse කරනවා නම්. right then what do you think about this presentation? It's very easy for you to understand, no? right it is very easy for you to understand rather than reading the book. article එක බල මේක refer කරන් ගියා නම් you can easily memorize it. When we do the ISBP is one of the longest articles ටික තියෙන තැන document එක, right? ඒකෙත් මම presentations ලස්සනට animations දාලා හදලා තියෙනවා. ඔයගොල්ලන් ලේසියෙන්ම ඔළුවට වදින්න. ඒතර ISBP එකේ ඒක තියාගත්තා නම් ඇති ඔයගොල්ලෝ ගාව print tag තියාගත්තා නම් that is more than enough for you when you are checking the documents. right the ISBP එක කටපාඩම් කරන්න බෑනේ. මේකක්වත් කටපාඩම් කරන්න බෑ. only thing you have to get the understanding. the by heart ගන්න අමාරුයි. now LC available with XYZ bank. LC available with XYZ bank. Then the place for presentation is bank XYZ or issuing bank. Right? Issuing bank is the ultimate paying bank. Now, if I ask you a question like this, an expiry date that applies at the counters of the issuing bank. Expiry date applies at the counters of the issuing bank. Right? If that's a thing that requires that the issuing bank must receive the documents. Issuing bank must receive the documents no later than the expiry date subject to the Article 29A. Right? When the expiry date that applies the counters of the issuing bank now. Issuing bank counter can expire when all the documents must be received before the expiry date of the LC by the issuing bank. Right? Very important. Article 7. Issuing banks undertaking. Right? There they say.
Excuse me, sir. Can I disturb you? So that expiry date, is it included the date that document received to the bank? I mean, assume the expiry date is today. If the bank receives the documents today, is it okay, no?
Yeah, that's okay.
That's included the date.
Yeah, that's okay. But that should be Who asked that question? Ajit?
Sumudru.
Sumudru, very important thing. The bank should receive the documents during the banking hours, right?
All right.
Right. Now Sumudru asked very important question. Very important question. Now the expiry date is today is 11. ये केला 10th केला. Yesterday was the expiry date. If the issuing bank receives the documents and expired at the issuing bank counters, if the issuing bank receives the documents before 3 o'clock, then it is okay. But if the documents received by the issuing bank after 11:45 in the night, 11:45 in the night, is it in the same day? Is it in the same day? Same day, within the day. But we will not take it as a complaint presentation because not within the banking hours. Not within the banking hours. ඒක තේරුණාද? අපි අර තුනට ඉස්සෙල්ලා දෙන්න ඕනේ. නැතුව රැට මේ ගිහිල්ලා බැංකුවට දෙන්න බෑ. රාදුරාට ගිහිල්ලා බැංකුවට දෙන්න බෑ. Right? Okay. On a compliant presentation made to nominated bank or to issuing bank itself, the issuing bank is undertaking. On a compliant presentation made to nominated bank or to issuing bank itself. Right? Then I told you because issuing bank is the ultimate paying bank. Reimburse nominated bank that has honored or negotiated and forwarded compliant documents to issuing bank. If the nominated bank has honored or negotiated the documents, right? And after that, they have forwarded the compliant presentation documents to the issuing bank. Then the issuing bank has some undertaking to reimburse the nominated bank. ඒක තේරුච්ච නැති අය ඉන්නවද? තේරුන්නේ නැති අය ඉන්නවද? මට කියන්න බලන්න. Right? Irrevocably bound as of the time LC is issued. That's another important thing. From the time they issue the LC, the issuing bank is irrevocably bound to honor the LC. Right? Okay. For users LC, reimbursement is due at maturity of deferred payment deferred payment undertaking or acceptance, whether or not nominated bank prepaid or purchased before maturity. What do you mean by that? For use and LCs, reimbursement is due at maturity of deferred payment undertaking or acceptance, whether or not nominated bank prepaid or purchased before the maturity. That is immaterial, whether the nominated bank has prepaid or purchased before the maturity. But we will pay on the due date. We will pay on the due date. අරගොල්ලන්ට ඕන එකක් discount කරලා ගන්න පුළුවන්. ඒක අපේ වැඩක් නෙමෙයි. Now here, date LC issued, right? From that particular time, they are irrevocably bound as of that date. From that date LC issued, the issuing bank is irrevocably bound as of this date, right? Then the documents will be presented. Then the documents will be accepted. And they will pay due for reimbursement on the maturity date. Okay. Issue
Sir,
banks.
excuse me, sir.
Yeah.
So if some customer want to do early settlement of usance bill,
Yeah.
will this be issue if that if the export is reimburse the bill? Is it we have to get the consent of him or to do the early settlement?
Mm, okay. Again, customer wants to early settle.
Yeah, importer want to do the early settlement. Assume now India want to do the some early settlement.
Right.
But
Okay.
meantime that that export is reimburse the bill from their end.
Mhm.
Then what? Then is it possible to do the early settlement?
No,
We have to get some.
Now the thing is, normally if you are, it's a contract between the applicant and the issuing bank. When we open the LC, right? It's a
Yes.
contract between the applicant and the issuing bank. Then the issuing
Yes.
bank, what is the contract? That to settle the bills on maturity. Whether the customer pays or not, we will settle the bill. And it has been advised to the advising bank and negotiating bank, and everybody knows about it. Right? Whether the customer settled or not, the issuing bank will settle. Right? Now, when we open the LCs, issuing the LCs, at that particular time, I don't know whether you know, every trade finance department, they have to inform this maturity date, LC maturity dates, to the අපේ ට්‍රෙෂරි එකටත් කියන්න ඕන. ට්‍රෙෂරි එකට කියලා ට්‍රෙෂරි එකෙන් ඒගොල්ලෝ මේන්ටේන් කරනවා on September, October, November, these months, the days, 10th, 15th, 17th, 18th, මෙච්චර outstanding තියෙනවා. මෙච්චර outstanding තියෙනවා. ඒවා ඒගොල්ලෝ හදාගෙන තියාගන්න ඕන. right? ඒතර ඒකට against තමයි they purchase forward money just to cover. But if you are going to early settlement, then everything will go for a 6. අපි සාමාන්‍යයෙන් නම් allow කරන්නේ නැහැ. සාමාන්‍යයෙන් allow කරන්නේ නැහැ. ඔයගොල්ලන්ගේ මෙහි කරනවද දැන් බැංක්ස් වල? මම දන්නේ නැහැ දැන් බැංක්ස් වල කරනවා කියලා. ඉතින් මට හිතා ගන්නත් බැරි. ඇයි අපි මේක කරන්නේ? The customer, the other end, once we have accepted the draft, they can get the draft discounted from the negotiating bank. No? That's what we do now. The drafts can be discounted by the negotiating bank because without recourse to the customer, they it can be with recourse to the issuing bank. With recourse to the issuing bank, because issuing bank has accepted the draft and they have sent the acceptance telex also. So we can discount. So customer is happy now. The bank will pay. That should be the most appropriate way.
No, sir. Actually, I'll explain. Now there are sometimes we have to mitigate the exchange risk. No, like sometimes if the rates are going down, or if some period that banks offer the good rate, then we can see the possibility to do some early settlement and mitigate the exchange rate when it's going to speculatory. So in that time, the importer should have some opportunity to do some early settlement. Now assume now these days, assume now his interest is between 200 and 203. So if you want to do some early settlement,
Yeah, is that Sumudu?
yes.
Yeah, Sumudu, do your banks do that?
Yes, sir. We have done with few banks.
You are done with few banks.
Yes.
With Standard Chartered. Sorry, I should not ask that question. Right? You have done with few banks, but as of today, I don't know any bank with the constraint of the foreign exchange market, right? And the scarcity, and because they have the obligations to pay the due bills. All these issuing banks, they have an obligations to pay the due bills. So instead of paying due bills and to pay a future date one, stopping the uh, I mean the path of the other people, other customers, I don't think it's an ethical thing. But anything can happen. But if the banks pay, I don't know how they are going to cover their forward positions.
No, actually, sir, what we are doing is we are matching our export proceed with the import bills. So we are providing dollars to our exporters.
You are providing dollars.
Yes, yes.
You are providing dollars, and okay. If the bank agrees, well, I think theoretically we are not doing, but then now the theory has no meaning. A lot of things are happening where the things are happening, but no issue. I'm not saying you can't do it, because if you are, since you are getting the dollars, the much needed dollars, and you will say, don't give these dollars to anybody else, you use it to settle our bills. It is like that. So it is, you are having a control.
Yes.
Yeah, it is something like that. So, yeah.
Exactly. So in that sense, I'm asking if that export is reimbursed the bill, will it be issued to the bank, beneficiary bank?
The money,
Because they are getting money early.
yeah.
But in that case, that exporter and beneficiary bank have some interest or something, no? Because they have reimbursed the beneficiary and they are charging some interest on the exporter.
Yeah.
Will it be issued? I mean, if you are asked to do original, we have to get the consent from exporter or
No, I don't have any answer to that, because I can't tell you anything offhand without checking the actual situations, right? Now, I told you, earlier also, there are certain malpractices are happening. So those things I can't say yes or no. I can't give any answer. Right? I can't give you any answers. And one of the earlier ones also, I have checked with the central bank, and they said, no, you should not do it. So I don't think because of you people, I should check with central bank and all. Then all the banks will get the bad name, right?
yeah, no need to check.
Again, the no need to check. You better keep quiet, and if the bank is doing, enjoy it, right? But otherwise, this is, according to my view, it is wrong.
Okay, understood.
Right? Okay. Okay. Then overview of Article 8. UCP 600 Article 8. අර වාගේ සුමුදිගේ question අනිත් answer එක තමයි, we have agreed to pay. Agreed to pay. Right? Agreed to pay නම් අපි එතනින් එහාට on the due date we have to pay. Right? So it is your arrangement with the bank, but you have a very valid thing, because of the fluctuation of the exchange rate. You people are demanding the bank, okay, you utilize my export proceeds to pay my import bills. ඒක තමයි වෙන්නේ. ඒක හරිද වැරදිද කියන්න I'm not going to tell you yes or no answer, right?
So nowadays, banks are settling the supplier through a nostro account, right? But they are charging some margin and debit to our accounts. For example, today raised it 200, but they didn't find the dollars at that rate, no. So what they are doing, they settle the nostro account and they are charging that 203 plus 10% or something and debit the account to charge that account once they found the dollars, once they find the dollars, right?
Once they find the dollars.
Yes, they are not charging the exact rate, today's rate, because they can't find dollars at
No.
200.
Now tell me, if you have to settle the bill today,
Mhm.
right? If the bank doesn't have the money, but the bank, even their nostro account, through nostro, they settle the bill.
Yes.
Through nostro, they settle the bill, and then today itself, they will charge you at 203 plus 10%.
Yes.
Is
Because
it like that?
Yes, exactly.
Right? 203 plus 10%. If the customer wants to do it, they will do it. I don't know. හැබැයි ඒකට සල්ලි හම්බුනාම කොහොමද කරන්නේ?
Then what normally they are saying is we don't agree to do that, but banks are doing the same thing because even we can understand with that scarcity they can't find dollars at 203. But what they are doing is they are having some premium because they have to block the account for that amount because they don't know whether they are going to find dollars at 205, 207, or 220. So once they found dollars, what they are doing, they reverse the entire amount and charge the exact rate. That may be 250. Is it possible?
No idea. I'm not here to teach you the practices, right? Forex practices, I'm not here to teach you. Trade, yes, අපි කතා කරමු. ඔය වගේ දේවල් they are very scary to give my opinion because my opinion may be different. So it's better for me to be silent, right? Okay, we'll move on to the other one. UCP 600 Article 8, that is confirming bank's undertaking. Now, the confirming bank undertaking is to honor a compliant presentation, right? The make it irrevocably bound as of this date, and they are only responsible to pay on the due date. Due for reimbursement, maturity, they have to do the payment, right? That's a theory. So don't ask me what the banks are doing, whether it's correct or wrong, right? Now, when it comes to Article 8, confirming bank undertaking, honor a compliant, this is almost similar, very much similar to obligations and responsibilities of a issuing bank. It's a mirror. Just like the issuing bank's undertaking, just like the issuing bank's obligations and responsibilities, confirming bank has everything, right? It's almost the same thing, right? Confirming bank's undertaking to reimburse nominated bank is independent of its undertaking to beneficiary, right? Anyway, the confirming bank as a negotiating bank has to pay the beneficiary if the documents are complied with the terms and conditions of the LC. But confirming bank's undertaking to reimburse a nominated bank is independent of its undertaking to the beneficiary. Sometimes the confirming bank and the nominated bank may be two different banks. But practically, in real life scenario, all the banks, if you are adding confirmation, you will request you to be nominated and restrict the LC negotiation to the confirming bank, right? Okay. The Article 9 is advising of credits and amendments. Article 9 is advising of credits and amendments, right? There, when you go through the articles, this is only a summarized version, right? By advising an LC, the advising bank signifies it's without any undertaking to honor or negotiate. It's very important. A lot of customers, the beneficiaries, when they receive the LCs from the advising bank, they give the documents to the advising bank, and they sometimes they request and fight with them to negotiate and to honor the payments. Not necessarily, because they will do it without any responsibility. And when you are advising also, we say without any responsibility on our part. We are advising this particular LC without any responsibility on our part, right? So they don't take any undertaking, without any undertaking to honor or negotiate. It has satisfied itself as to the apparent authenticity of the LC or amendment. That's the most important thing they have to do. They have to be satisfied itself as to the apparent authenticity. What do you mean by apparent authenticity? Can somebody elaborate on apparent authenticity? How you satisfy yourself as to the apparent authenticity of LC? You are the advising bank. Ajit? Ko lamai? ළමයි නැද්ද? එහෙනම් බ්‍රයිට්නි කෙවින් ඔය ඉන්නවනේ ක්‍රවුඩ් එක? Dinesh, Ajit, cool. What do you mean by apparent authenticity? How do you satisfy the apparent authenticity? Before a non-banker gives the answer, tell us. Can you hear me?
Yes, sir.
Yes, I can hear.
Then give me the answer. How you are going to be satisfied yourself as to the apparent authenticity of the LC? What do you mean by apparent authenticity? As you see, you have to be satisfied. You don't have to go and go into detail. You don't have to dig it. Apparent authenticity. දැක්ක විදියට ටක් ගාලා මේක authenticated කියලා දෙන්න ඕන. කොහොමද අපි මේක බලන්නේ? Apparent authenticity. How we are going to get this confirmed? මට දැන් උත්තරේ කිව්වොත් ඔයගලන්ට හැංගෙන්න දැන් නැති වෙනවා ඒකයි. එච්චරම ලේසි එකක්. ඔයගොල්ලෝ දන්න එකක් කියන්නේ. You have to ensure that you are receiving the LC. How you are receiving the LC? Majority by SWIFT. If it is received by SWIFT under MT700, then it is auto authenticated. That's it. If you have received a LC under MT700, then the apparent authenticity is confirmed. Right? You don't have to check anything else. Right? If it is a mail LC, then you have to check the authorized signatories. You should be having the specified signatures in your possession. Then you have to check. Those days we used to do that. Ford Rawa Chabeka Purula Dibuna. Loke Matina Banko signatures. Loke Banko signature Apikautuna. When I was with Standard Chartered, I yo Kono Pel Balandona. සමහරව පොත් අලි පොත් හරියට මේ ඔක්ස්ෆර්ඩ් ඩික්ෂනරි එක වගේ 500 600 pages මේ ලොකු බැංක්ස් වල ඩොච් බැංක් සිටි බැංක් එහෙම එන්න තොගිය හැම ලෝකෙකම බ්‍රාන්චස් තියෙනවා ඒ ඔක්කොම පෙරලා බලන්න ඕන සිග්නේචර් නම්බර් එකෙන් පෙරලා ස්පෙસિෆික් සිග්නේචර් චෙක් කරලා අපි ඔතෙන්ටිකේට් කරන්න ඕන. That was the apparent authenticity. Now it is very much easy, right? If you have received the LC under MT 700, authenticated, right? That's the only thing you have to be satisfied. The advice accurately reflects LC terms and conditions, right? When you are advising entire terms and conditions accurately, you have to give. Normally we don't cut and paste anything, right? We just advise what we have received, right? Another thing which I want to ask you, the practical thing, your only responsibility is to ensure that satisfied yourself as to the apparent authenticity of the LC. But does it mean you don't have to see what are the conditions or what are the goods involved in this particular LC before you advise? Check කරනවද නැද්ද? බැංක්ස් වල වැඩ කරන කට්ටිය කියනවා. LC එක කියවන්නවත් නැතුවද කරන්නේ? Are you doing it without reading the LC, or you are just have a cursory glance? Or that the LC advising කරන කට්ටිය? If you are doing LC advising, you have to have a cursory glance. You don't have to go into detail, but you should at a glance යන්න ඕන scan as දෙකෙන් scan කරගෙන යන්න ඕන, right? At HSBC, when we were doing under centralized operations, I had given only 3 minutes to go through a LC. 3 minutes. 3 minutes වලට අර්ග LC එකත් යන්තම් උඩින් පල්ලෙන් බලලා load කරන්නත් ඕන. ඉන්පෙන්ෂන් අමාරුයි. සාමාන්‍යයෙන් අපි average දෙනවා 5 minutes විතර දෙනවා. 5 minutes වලට දෙන්නේ. It's like then you're slow. You're slow. But you can't make any mistakes also. But you have to have your speed also. When you're working at Rajagiriya, if you happen to work at Rajagiriya, that's the way you have to work. Right? For a day, about 100 LCs. අපි LC එක queue හිටියොත් එම දවසට LC 10ක්වත් advice කරන්න බෑ. Right? Every hour, at least 10 to 12 LCs you have to, minimum 12 LCs you have to advise. You have to load it and then advise. LC ඉවරයි, ඉතින් හරි ඉවරයි. Right? ඒ speed එකේ යන්න ඕනේ. ඒ speed එකේ යන්න ඕනේ. One person has to finish at least 60 to 70 LCs per day. Right? ඒ speed එකේ අපි ඉවර කරන්න ඕන. මම 70ක් දුන්නාම එක්කෙන්ට එයා කරන්න ඕන. අනිත් එක්කන 70යි. Right? ඒ විදිහට තමයි අපි බෙදලා දෙන්නේ. But you have to go through it. And we have to identify whether there's any ambiguous clauses, whether there's any unworkable conditions. But you can't do anything if your customer is one of your good prime customers or not. As a prudent bank, you have to advise the customer, I'm advising the LC, but just be careful. Under the terms and conditions, ඒවා කටින් කියන්න ඕනේ. in writing මුකුත් දෙන්න එපා. කිසිම දෙයක් in writing දෙන්නේ නැහැ. in writing ගහන්නේ without a responsibility on our part we advise. එච්චරයි. අනිත් ඒවා ඔක්කොම කටින් අපේ good customer service අපි කියනවා just go through the terms and conditions. I have seen few adverse conditions. Please check whether you can work under this LC or not. Then after the we put the ball to the beneficiary's courts, let him play. Right? Okay. And advising bank may utilize the services of another bank to advise the credit, second advising bank. Now, when in most of the cases, sometimes the customer, the beneficiary is having the LC, his accounts with some other bank, but we are advising the LC through HSBC or Standard Chartered Bank, international banks. They have a group policy. All the LCs will be advised to their group office, not to other officers, direct to their group officers. So if it is Dubai, the customer is having his account with National Bank of Abu Dhabi. Customer is having his account with National Bank of Abu Dhabi. But we advise the LC to HSBC Abu Dhabi. Because my bank is HSBC here, negotiating banks, issuing bank. So issuing bank will advise the LC to HSBC Abu Dhabi. But in Abu Dhabi, the customer is having an account with National Bank of Abu Dhabi. So then National Bank, HSBC Abu Dhabi will advise the LC to the National Bank of Abu Dhabi. So National Bank of Abu Dhabi will be the second advising bank. Right? Actually, the beneficiary's bank is the second advising bank. Then another important thing, then comes an amendment. If there's an amendment, then that amendment also should go through the same path. If there's an amendment, we can't advise directly to National Bank of Abu Dhabi, because we have advised the LC through HSBC Abu Dhabi. So the amendment also go through the same path, right? Then under Article 9D, Article 9D, the routing of an amendment, which has to be in the same thing, right? Under Article 10, that then we talk about the amendments. An amendment must be agreed to by the issuing bank, confirming bank, if any, and the beneficiary. Those are the parties to a LC. So originally, these three parties have agreed to advise the LC. But amendment, not necessarily the issuing bank has to issue the amendment. Customer කිව්ව පළියට මේක කරන්න බෑ. ඒගොල්ලෝ කැමති වෙන්නත් ඕන. Not only issuing bank. Issuing bank should agree to issue the amendment. Then the confirming bank, it has to go through the confirming bank and then advise to the beneficiary. Beneficiary also should accept the amendment. Right? So amendment must be agreed to by the issuing bank, confirming bank, if any, and the beneficiary. Right? it gives a making තව එකක් අපිට මේ වෙනවා. When an issuing bank is issued a LC, are they irrevocably bound to issue any amendment? Are they irrevocably bound to issue any amendment? I mean, if the customer wants to amend the LC, can the issuing bank say no? Can the issuing bank say no? Or if the customer wants to issue a LC, they are obliged to issue the amendment. Answer. Answer is they are not bound to issue the amendment. Right? But normally 100% when we issue the LC, we do issue the amendment. But you have to go through the LC and see, you have to go through the amendment and see that is not going against the original LC. ඒක පොඩ්ඩක් බලලා බලන්න ඕනේ ඇඩ්වර්ස්ම යන විදිහකට සම්පූර්ණයෙන්ම වෙනස් වෙන විදිහකට තියෙනවද නැද්ද කියන එක බලලා you have to take a decision, right? Whether you are going to issue the amendment as requested by the customer.
Excuse me, sir.
Yeah.
Sir, පොඩි දෙයක් දැන් සමහර වෙලාවට මේ import control regulations වලට amendment කරන්න වෙනවනේ. ඔය පහුගිය දවස්වල spare parts එකම ගෙන්නද්දී term LC open කරන්න ඕන. ඊට පස්සේ ඒකව site කරන්න ඕනනේ. ඒ වගේ අවස්ථාවල amendment වලට අපිනේ customer ට කියන්නේ amendment එක කරන්න ඕනි කියලා customer ට inform කරනවානේ. කරලානේ අපි කරන්නේ. එතකොට කොහොමද වෙන්නේ sir?
ප්‍රශ්නේ නැහැ. ඒක දැන් අපි that's a country regulation. According to the country regulation, issuing bank has the right to advise the customer and to get the amendment accordingly. You have to get the amendment accordingly done by the customer and ask them to submit to the bank. You propose and then based on the proposal, customer will prepare whatever that and
that's a request.
Yeah, then they will request the bank to open the issue the amendment. Right? එහෙම තමයි වෙන්නේ. ඒක ප්‍රශ්න නැහැ. ඒක මම කියේ issuing bank එක කැමති වෙන්න ඕන. issuing bank එක කැමතිත් නෙමෙයි. යා කැමතියි කියලා මේ කස්ටමර්ත් එක්ක රණ්ඩු වෙලා මේ ඔය අතරේ මොන හරි කේස් එකක් වෙලා මේ ප්‍රයිවට් කේස් එකකදී මේ අර කස්ටමර් ඉන්නේ අල්ලපු ගෙදර මාර කේස් එකක් ඔයාගේ දුවයි කස්ටමර්ගේ පුතා යාළු වෙලා දැන් එන වලියක් ලොකු කේස් එකක් ඇස්සේ දැන් අර amendment එකක් ඕන බෑ අරින්නේ ඔය මිනිහාගේ amendment එක කියලා කියන්න බෑ, right? That is a different thing. කැමැත්ත නෙමෙයි මේ they had to be comfortable with the amendment. එච්චරයි. වෙන කැමැත්තක් නැහැ.
In this case, customer, if customer tell us they don't have money to pay site, if the documents also received,
Yeah.
Normal LC open.
නෑ LC එක අරලා තියෙන කොහමද?
Normally LC opened under usance as usance LC.
Okay.
It means sometimes 90 days after BL date. But
Okay.
We suggest to customer due to import control relation import controller restrictions, we have to change the tenor site instead of term LC.
No. Originally we have open
Term LC.
users.
Yes, users.
Originally we have open users. Now you want to change it to site.
Site, yes.
Okay.
If customer says we don't have money to pay at site.
Now the thing is, it's a two different things. Now, without having the amendment, without issuing the amendment, right? If you have received the documents, that's a different thing. Okay.
Okay.
Can I have your name, please? Then I will.
I'm Ajit.
Ajit. Now, your question is, we have issued the LC, the tenor as usance.
Yes.
And by the time we receive the LC bills, by the time we receive the bills, now we have already received the bill, right?
Yes.
With the tenor draft for 60 days draft.
Yes.
Right? We have not issued any amendment now. Still, we have not issued any amendment. So,
Okay.
if you have not issued any amendment, then you can't amend it now, because now already we have received the documents also. ඒකනේ අපි LCs වල දැන් මතක නේද 2019 නෑ 2020 වල අර කොවිඩ් ආපු කාලේ ආපු first circular set එකේ යම්මනේ, if the LC is open prior to 31st May, right? Then you can go ahead. After 31st, you have to do the changes. Right?
But recently they are issue regulations backdating.
Backdating කරලා තමයි මේ කරපු ඔක්කොටම.
No. I mean some regulations recently.
Yes. No, I can't understand, because import controller, if you make a representation to the import controller, because I have my practical experience, what we will do is either we will call the import controller on behalf of our customer, or we'll ask the customer to go and speak to the import controller. Definitely they will adhere to the request. Definitely they will adhere to the request, because it's not a common one. It's ad hoc basis, right? So they will adhere to our request. They give the exemptions. එහෙම නැතුව සමහර බැංක්ස් කරන වැරද්දක් තමයි මේක දාපු ගමන් ගහෙන් ගෙඩින් වගේ අර ඔක්කොම මේ කරන. Customers are nowhere. They don't know, they can't find money, they don't have facilities, because now just imagine when we open an LC to be paid after 60 days, obviously there will be a interest portion add up to the unit price. For 2 months, we are delaying the payments for 2 months. So the beneficiary has add up 2 months savings interest or fixed deposit interest to that CIF value, and then recalculate the amount. Now, for example, if the FOB value, if the site value is, if the site LC, it is 100,000 for 1,000 units, 100,000. If it is 6 days DA, when it comes to 6 days DA, then they will say they can't give it at 100,000. Then they have to add the interest portion of their country to the total value of per unit. එකට ගන්න වෙනවා. ඒතර දැන් ඔතන ගත්තේ per unit එකක් එන්නේ 1000 units 100,000. Then 1 unit is 100. 1 unit is $100. Now the price of 1 unit will be 103. Price of unit is 103 because you will get the money. Beneficiary is getting the money only after 2 months time, right? That interest portion is added up. Now they agreed, and we have already agreed to do it. Now all of a sudden, our people will change the whole thing, and they will say to pay site. So my customer is getting affected now because they are paying interest portion also. Already they agreed to pay interest portion to the beneficiary. And instead of paying 100,000, now they have to pay 103,000 immediately. It's utter loss to him. So I don't think, but it can happen the other way around. The site එකක් කරලා තියෙද්දි මේගොල්ලෝ කියන්න පුළුවන් ඒක 60 days වලින් ගෙවන්නේ කියලා. or 90 days users කරන්නේ කියලා. ඒක නම් වෙන්න පුළුවන්. එතකොට ඉතින් customers ලා negotiate කරගන්න වෙනවා. But yesterday or day before I saw some discussions. Nalin Melgama and Damika Perra and all, they were one of the Sumal Perra or Atiokuma meeting a meeting and there are 24/7 again. Arime show discussion again. We are losing the beneficiaries. We are losing the beneficiaries because beneficiaries are issues according to my experience, our organizations, import control department, exchange control department, both, if you submit your grievance, not a wholesaler, privately, on a one-off basis, they'll allow you. They'll give the thing. Once you prove that I'm in a critical situation, this is what has happened, and I'm losing okay, bank they know approve. ඒක අපි ඒ විදිහට හදන්න ඕනේ එපැත්තෙන්. අර වගේ දෙයක් වෙනවා නම් ඉතින් මම දැන් මට හිතා ගන්න බෑ. හැබැයි ගොඩක් වෙලාට අපි කියන්නේ before LC is issued before this particular date කියන එක. the back date කරලා කරනවා කියන්නේ දැන් කාලේ ඉතින් වෙන දේවල් හැටියට මම නෑ කියන්නෙත් නෑ. ඒක මම වෙන සමහර අය ගැන මට කතා කරන්න බෑ කියලා මට තේරෙන්නේ නෑ ඇත්තටම. මේ වෙන්නේ international trade with them. International trade with them. Right? I told you, I was doing the Forex with you. Abhi spot value right? Spot value is value 2 days. Value 2 working days of the Nostro bank. They are the people who will pay. If the second day is a poor day in Sri Lanka, Apidana value 3 days. That is our spot. Is it correct? That is not the theory which we have learned for ages. Mama AIB කරලේ 1980 වල එතකොටත් අපි කලේ ওই විදිහට. පොත්වල තියෙන්නේ ඕනම පොතක් කරන් බලන්න value 2 days. That is spot. 2 working days. Value 2 working days. That is spot. Sri Lanka විතර ඒක පොඩ්ඩක් කරනවා. Sri Lanka කියලා කියන්නේ ඒක නිකන් ලංකාව කියලා කිව්වම weight එක මදි. ශ්‍රී ලංකාවේ විතර දැන් banks වලින් කරන්නේ. මම ඔගේ හොල් සෙන්ට්‍රල් බැංක් එකෙන් එහුවම කියලා කියනවා what can we do Mr. Caldera? Malpractices by banks. What to do? ඒගොල්ලෝ කියන්නේ පොයිඩේ our rupee market is closed. So because of that we can't. The හොඳම උදාහරණේ Monday පොය Monday පොය නෙමෙයි නේද? 20th පොය එනවා. 20th පොය එනවා. අපේ 16th වල අපි දැම්මන් transaction date 16th of September, then the spot value is 20th. But from Sri Lanka point of view, spot value is, we have done the transaction on 16th, spot we are giving the nostro value on 21st. Is it correct? They say his argument is 20th is payday. No rupee transactions. But when have we deduct the customer? When have we got the rupees from the customer? When have we debited customer's account and got the rupees? Tama conversion එක ගියේ නැහැ. කවද්ද අපි rupees ටික ගත්තේ? customer ගෙන් ගත්තේ කවද්ද? 16th වල Thursday. 16th Thursday ගත්තේ. 16th Thursday ගත්තා නම් what are we talking about? We have the entire 17th Friday. කොහෙද රුපී ප්ලේස් කරන්නේවා අපිට තියෙනවා. Right? 20th වල සල්ලි arrange කරන්නේවත් අපිට තියෙනවා. සල්ලි තියෙනවා. What are we talking? So if you ask me opinion on that, I can't give you any answers. ඒ වගේ තමයි මේකත්. Right අජිත්? මට කරන්න බැරියව මට කියන්න බෑ මොකද මේ සමහර practices දැන් තියෙනවා නම් please excuse me. වෙන කතා කරොත් මට lectures කරන්න හම්බ වෙන්නේ නැහැ. They will come against me. Right? Okay. බැංක් වලට උත්තර නැහැ හැබැයි මේවට. Okay, we'll go back to the Article 10. Issuing bank or confirming bank is irrevocably bound as of the time of issuance and advising of amendment. මේක හරියට එනවා ඔබට multiple choice questions වල MCQ. Right? From what time they are bound for the amendment? At the time, as of time of issuance. එවෙලේ ඉඳන් ඒගොල්ලෝ they are irrevocably bound. Right? Confirming bank must inform issuing bank of election not to extend confirmation to an amendment and may advise beneficiary of amendment without his confirmation. What do you mean by that? This is a very important point as a confirming bank. Now, as a confirming bank, you have advised the LC adding your confirmation for a LC of 100,000. LC of $100,000, you have adapt your confirmation. Now, the issuing bank is ABC Bank. Namak කියන්නද ඔයගොල්ලෝ? ABC Bank in Colombo. ABC Bank in Colombo. Now, according to the credit rating of ABC Bank can their exposures, the maximum exposures, they can have it for $100,000. $100,000. Right? Their total exposure. Their total exposure is $1 million. Now, with this 100,000, when you add up that particular bank's, whatever the confirmation you have add up, that will be just within 1 million. US dollars 999,500. 999,500. Then what the total like ABC Bank exposure as at today. On Monday you are getting another amendment for enhancing the LC by another $50,000. Can happen, no? And they want you to add your confirmation. Can you add the confirmation? Can you add confirmation? Or you have to add confirmation? To the amendment, because you have already added your confirmation to the LC. What do you think? Answers. Ajit, Sumala. What about others? Look at another. Can you hear me?
Yes, sir.
Okay. All right. Can we add our confirmation to the amendment? I gave you a case. As per that case, can you add your confirmation?
No, we cannot.
Why? What happen if you add? Why you are not adding?
You have to inform the issuing bank.
Why? What's the reason? Why do we have to inform the issuing bank?
Because of the limit.
Because of the limit. Because you are exceeding your limit for that issuing bank. Right? So because of that, you can't add any more confirmation to any amendment or anything. So once you add 50,000, that will exceed 1 million limit. Right? Because of that, you will advise the issuing bank, and then what you can do is you can advise the amendment to the beneficiary without adding your confirmation, but you have to tell them very clearly that please be advised that we have not added our confirmation to this amendment. So your amendment is only for the 100,000 LC. Sorry, your confirmation is only for the 100,000 original LC, not for the enhancing the value by 50,000. That amendment, that is not covered, right? But you have to advise parties, issuing bank as well as the beneficiary. Notification of acceptance or rejection received should be given by the second advising bank to the advising, and the advising bank to the issuing bank. Notification of acceptance or rejection received should be given by second advising bank to the advising bank, and advising bank to the issuing bank. If the beneficiary through the second advising bank, once they advise the LC to the beneficiary, if the beneficiary reject the amendment, right, then the second advising bank has to advise the advising bank, because that's a path it has gone. No? So any feedback also use the same path. Second advising bank to the advising bank, and the advising bank has to inform the issuing bank, right? Partial acceptance is not acceptable. Partial acceptance is not acceptable. ඒ කියන්නේ මේ වගේ එකක්. Article 10E, partial acceptance of an amendment is not allowed and will be deemed to be notification of rejection of the amendment. Notice of rejection if not acceptable. Now, for example, they have enhanced the number of units. They have enhanced the number. Amendment same amendment. They have enhanced the number of units from 50,000 units to 75,000. Right? And then enhance the LC value from $50,000 to $75,000. Right? And in the same amendment, the third amendment, they have mentioned latest shipment date. Earlier it was 30th September. Earlier it was 30th September. Now they have brought forward to read as latest shipment date as 15th September. Now for the first one and second one, value enhancement and number of units, customer agreed, but they are not agreeable to bring forward the shipment date. Right? Advance the shipment date. They are not agreeable. So they will say, we will agree to amendment on these two we agreed, not for this one. එහෙම කරන්න බෑ. Partial acceptance, no. That means total rejection notice of that particular amendment. Is it clear for you? I hope it's clear. Partial acceptance, bad. Either everything or nothing. Right? Here, nothing. Disregard any provisions that the amendment shall be in force unless rejected by the beneficiary within certain time. Right? එතෙන්දී අපිට කියනවා disregard any provisions that the amendment shall be in force unless rejected by the beneficiary within certain time. එහෙම ඒවා අපිට දාන්න බෑ. Right? ඔක අපි අලුතෙන් දාපු මේක. Under Article 10F, read the Article 10F. A provision in an amendment to the effect that the amendment shall enter into force unless rejected by the beneficiary within a certain time shall be disregarded. Right? In other words, an amendment should not incorporate. The amendment should not incorporate any conditions that implies that it will be automatically accepted or rejected in the event that the beneficiary does not provide a notification of acceptance or rejection within a specified period. Right? එහෙම දුන්නේ නැහැ කියලා අපිට ඒක automatically accepted or rejected in the event that the beneficiary does not provide a notification of acceptance or rejection within the specified period. Right? ඒ වගේ දෙයක් දාන්න එපා. මේ amendment එක යනවා amount reduced by $100,000. This amendment shall be in force unless rejected by beneficiary on or before 30th November 2007. ඒක disregard කරනවා. එහෙනම් silence එකේ ඉන්නත් දැන් කොහෙද කවද්ද මේක අපි මේක accept කළාද නැද්ද කියලා දැනගන්නේ? මේක accept කළාද නැද්ද කියලා දැනගන්නේ කොයිලාද?
When we receive the documents?
Sorry, පුතා?
When we receive the documents?
When we receive the documents for negotiation. The negotiating bank, when they receive the documents only, they will understand. Right? Very correct. මේ වගේ දේවල් අපි දාන්න හොඳ නැහැ as the issuing bank. A presentation that complies with the credit and not yet accepted. A presentation that complies with the credit and not yet accepted. Amendment, not yet accepted amendment, deemed to be beneficiary's acceptance of the amendment. Right? Presentation that complies with the credit and not yet accepted amendment, deemed to be beneficiary's acceptance of the amendment. Right? Original LLC, make up a Memhitagam. Original LLC, 1st July 2007, US dollars 150,000. Shipped by 20th August 7th August, right? 20th August 2007. Partial shipments allowed. Right? The documents they have submitted, US dollars 100,000, shipped on 20th July 2007. Is it a compliant or discrepant? And the second one, subsequently, there's an amendment dated 4th July 2007. Original LC was issued on 1st July. Subsequent amendment issued on 4th July. Amount reduced to US dollars 100,000. Right? Shipped by 20th July 2007. එහෙම තියෙද්දි ඩොකියුමන්ට් එක 100,000 ආව නම් අපිට under the first one also it is deemed to be accepted, compliant presentation එක. ඒ 150,000 තිබ්බට partial shipment එලාවනේ. එහෙනම් 100,000 එකට ඒකත් යනවා. Second එකේදී as per the amendment it has reduced to 100,000. Right? Again, that is also compliant. Because the document is for 100,000, they have reduced to 100,000, then no issue. Okay? Any questions? What silent again? What there clarification ඇති කියලා ඔළුවේ. මට නිකන් පේනවා වගේ. මම 1 minute ඉන්නවා. මුකුත් නොකර ඔයගලන්ට කතා කරන්න පුළුවන්. Right? Okay. Article 11. Teletransmitted and pre-advised credits and amendments. මේක නම් දැන් ගොඩක් යූස් වෙන්නේ නැහැ. trade transmitted and pre-advised credits and amendments. Those days when we were having telex LCs, not Swift, telex LCs, we used to send, if the last date of issuance is today, the last date of issuance is today, as per the contract, the customer comes to us at the last moment. Bank is closing at 3 o'clock. 2:45 දුවගෙන ඇවිල්ලා අපේ RM තත් කතා කරලා කොහොම හරි අනේ මේක අද ඇව්වේ නැත්තම් මේ මොකක්ද ඒකට කියන්නේ permit එක cancel වෙනවා. ඔක උනේම ඒ දවස්වල අපි telex method එකේ යවනකොට ministers ලගේ duty free car permits වලට they waited till the last moment ඇවිල්ලා දුවගෙන ඇවිල්ලා ඔන්න දෙනවා මේක කොහමද ඇරලා දෙන්නේ කියලා. ඒ සමහර මිනිස්ටර්ස් ලා එන්නේ ඉස්සෙල්ලා බැංක් එකේ චෙයාමන්ටත් කතා කරලා එන්නේ. ඒගොල්ලෝ එන්නේ නැහැ. ඉතින් අර මිනි එකත් ඒවනවා ඇප්ලිකේෂන් එක අස්සම් කරලා මේ 245 වලට එවනවා කොහොම හරි මේක යවන්නේ කියලා. අපිට යවන්න බෑ. මේක දැන් නම් අපිට ස්විෆ්ට් එකේ ගහන්න පුළුවන් පටපට ගාලා. ළමෙක් දාලා පැක් විතර වැඩිපුර තියලා හරි ගහලා ඉවර කරලා දාලා ඒක අප්‍රූව් කරලා මට ගෙදර යන්න පුළුවන්. ඒ දවස්වල බෑ. Once you cut the telex, then we have to check it, and if there's any corrections, then we'll have to give it back to the telex department. They will again retype it, they will send it, right? And then again we find some typographical errors, again we give LC එකත් 3-4 පාරක් උඩයයි පල්ලෙහාට යනවා. මේ ඩිපාර්ට්මන්ට්ස් දෙකක් අතර යනවා. එහාට මෙහාට ගිහලා තමයි LC එකේ එළියට යන්නේ. right? මේක ලේසි නෑ. ඉතින් ගොඩක් කට්ටිය ඉන්න ඕන. telex officer ඉන්න ඕන. telex manager ඒගොල්ලෝ ඉන්න ඕන චෙක් කරන කට්ටිය. telex department එකේ කට්ටිය. අපේ මෙහි කට්ටිය ඉන්න ඕන. It's a big process. So what we used to do those days, we used to send a pre-advice credit, right? Ithin අපි යනවා LC number එක අපි දෙනවා, number එක දීලා LC amount එක beneficiary applicant and the amount and the goods ඔය ටික ටක් ගාලා පොඩ්ඩක් ගහනවා. terms and credit conditions මුකුත් ගහන්නේ. ගහලා යවනවා. Then we have opened the LC. Right? We say pre-advice. And on the following day, morning, it was at අවතර හිමින්ස් එක ගහලා කලින් mistake වෙන්න පුළුවන්. අපි හරියට බලලා ගහලා පහුවෙන්ද යවන්න. පහුවෙන්ද ඒක තව දවස් දෙකකින් තුනකින් නෙමෙයි. Immediately the following day we'll have to send. And when the Swift format came, LC issued by MT700 and MT705 is dedicated to pre-advice, pre-LC, right? ඒකේ වන්න පුළුවන්. හැබැයි දැන් අපි එකක්වත් MT705 යවන්නෙම නැහැ. මොකද අපිට LC එක කපලා ගහන්න මහලු වෙලාවක් යන්නේ නැහැ. ගොඩක් කාට අපි කරන්නේ වෙන එකක් copy paste කරලා දාලා ටක් ගාලා change කරලා දානවා. copy paste කරලා ඊට පස්සේ පරණයක් copy paste කරලා දාලා change කරලා ටක් ගාලා දානවා. ඒක ලේසි. ඒ විදිහට තමයි කරන්නේ. ඒකෙන් තමයි pre advice ගැන මම ඉච්චර worry වෙන්නේ නැහැ. 705 එක. right? Preliminary advice of issuance of a credit or amendment obligates the issuing bank to issue the operative credit or amendment. Once we issue the pre-advice, issuing bank is obligated. That's their obligation to issue the full LC. Full LC account. Again, tele transmission full details to follow. right? ඔය විදිහට තමයි ඒ කියන්නේ. Then nomination, right? Nomination does not obligate nominated bank to honor. Nomination does not obligate nominated bank to honor. If we issue the LC and if we, when we advise the LC, we nominate Sampath Bank as the nominated bank, right? But the Sampath Bank is not obligated to honor. Even though we have nominated, that is their prerogative, right? By nominating a bank to accept a draft or incur a deferred payment undertaking, an issuing bank authorizes the nominated bank to prepay or purchase a draft, accepted or deferred payment undertaking incurred by the nominated bank, right? Now, in the LC, it's available with Citibank NA by deferred payment. Available with Citibank NA deferred payment at 30 days after date of shipment. It's very clearly they have mentioned. Citibank NA is authorized to incur a deferred payment undertaking, DPU, and prepay its DPU, for example, early payment before maturity. Prepay its DPU, early payment before maturity, right? Well, there's no bill of exchange involved, nothing accepted. It's only the deferred payment undertaking, right? So Citibank NA as a available bank, they have been nominated, right? And incur a deferred payment undertaking, and either they can pay on the maturity or they can pay early payment before maturity. Well, that is their prerogative, because the thing is, කලින් සුමුදු කිව්ව කතාවේ මෙතෙන්ට එනවා deferred payment taking, the bank is giving the undertaking, the negotiating bank is giving the undertaking to do, right? Okay. Bank to bank reimbursement agreement, I'm not going to discuss this one. අපි URR 725 කරා නේද ළමයි? URR 75 කළානේ?
Yes.
Yo, මතකත් නෑ දැන්. We have done it on 31st. We had done it on 31st July 2021. And right? 31st July 2021 වල URR 75 කරලා තියෙනවා. Don't say no. Right? So I don't want to discuss this one further. Article 14, the most important article. The most important article. Article 14, standard for examination of documents. For trade guys, this is the most important article. Standard for examination of documents. Must examine documents on their face to determine compliance. Again, you have to be very careful. Must examine documents on their face to determine compliance. If I ask you a question like this, but I want you people to answer, please. මන්දන්න මේ question එක ඔයගලන්ට ඔයගොල්ලෝ බලාපොරොත්තු වෙන එකක් නෙමෙයි. හැබැයි practically you can expect this, right? Now the this thing is Article 14A very clearly says we must examine documents on their face to determine compliance. We are not CID guys. Okay? It says they have loaded as per the LC, the documents are, as per the LC, the goods are, the goods are, goods are, ඔගොල්ලෝ අහලා දැකලා තියෙනවද? දැකලා තියෙනවා grandfather clocks. You must have seen grandfather clocks, right?
Yes.
You have seen, right? Or we'll say, grandfather clocks තමයි අපි දැන් දාලා තියෙන්නේ. දැන් grandfather clocks වටවල තියෙනකොට මෙන්න මේ article 14 එක ඔයගන්ට හරි important ගොඩක් gray areas තියෙනවා. You're free to ask any questions. Then we are checking the documents according to the commercial invoice, 100 units of grandfather clocks. Right? Then according to the packing list, 100 units of grandfather clocks. According to the insurance, it says grandfather clocks. According to the BL, it says clocks. It says clocks. Otherwise, grandfather clock. Make it clocks clear. Is it ඔක්කොම අනිත් ඔක්කොම හරියට තියෙනවා නම් ඒක compliant presentation එකක්ද? Compliant presentation එකක්ද?
No.
No. Why?
The description on the BL is not the exact product.
What about
Instead
others?
of father clock, it says clocks only.
Right. Okay. What about others? Anything?
No, I say that's that's okay. That can be done. That is compliant.
Compliant.
Yeah.
Any other ideas? Then click in a bag and take in a punan kina. Then banks take a then reject karna area kina negotiating bank එක පස්සේ උත්තර දුන්නේ කවුද මම දන්නේ නැහැ. පස්සේ උත්තර දුන්නේ කෙනා negotiating bank එක. negotiate කරලා එවනවා. ඉස්ලාම answer කළේ issuing bank එක. Reject. What about others? And the BL and all, except for commercial invoice, all the other documents, it doesn't have to be the mirror image of the goods description, but it should be in accordance with the LC as well as the commercial invoice. But the commercial invoice description of goods should be a mirror image of the LC. ඒක වෙන්න ඕන. අනිත් ඒවා එන්න ඕනේ නැහැ. So it is not a discrepancy. Grandfather, instead of grandfather clocks, we have mentioned clocks. Right? Okay. We'll put it like this. All the BL එකේ තියෙනවා grandfather කියලා. Is it a discrepant or not?
Yes.
Yes. මේ ග්‍රෑන්ඩ් ක්ලොක්ස් නෙමෙයි පටවල තියෙන 100ව පටවල තියෙන්නේ. නේද? අපි මාල්ල වාතයක් 100කින් 100ව පටවල ඇරලා තියෙනවා. ඔක්කොම 100ලා ලොට් 100ක් වගේ 100 grandfather clocks එකට 100ක් පටවල ඇරලා දානවා කන්ටෙන්ට් රැකස්ට. එහාට යනකොට මැරෙලා හිටපල්ලයි කියලා. ඒක වැරදි. right? ඔන්න ඔතන තමයි උගන්ට on their face to determine compliance. Right? But having said that, if I ask you another question, you all must have seen actual bill of lading එකක් දැකලා තියෙනවද ඔයගොල්ලෝ? bill of lading එකක් දැකලා තියෙනවද? අද ගෑනුම කවුරු කඩද්ද ක්ලාස් එකේ? yes right. දැන් එහෙම තියෙන එකක පුතේ අපි BL එක එනවා ඔයගලන්ට A4 paper එකේ ගහපු BL එක. හැබැයි අසං කරලා seal එක ගාලා අසං කරලා එනවා A4 paper එකේ ගහපු BL එක. Excel එකයි. What is your position? Must examine documents on their face to determine compliance. Article 14A එක හැටියට අපි දැන් මේක මොකද කරන්නේ? මේක හරිද වැරදිද? Are you going to investigate more or just the bill of lading is there, issued in 3 copies, එකක් තියෙනවා. මේ ඔක්කොම මේකේ ගහලා තියෙන්නේ. Excel එකේ ගහලා. අනේ details ඔක්කොම තියෙනවා. A4 papers තුනක් තියෙන්නේ. As a document checker, what is your position? Boss ගෙන් අහනවද? යාළුවගෙන් අහනවද තවත් document checker කෙනෙක්ගෙන්? මට කෝල් එකක් දෙනවද අනිත් අය කරනවා වගේ? මොකද කරන්නේ? එහෙම නැත්නම් ඔයාලා ඩිසිෂන් එකක් ගන්නවද? ඉන්වෙස්ටිගේට් කරන්න වෙනවා නේ?
Yes.
Because අර වගේ අපි දන්නවා BL එකක් ඔය විදිහට දෙන්න බෑ. එහෙමනම් අපිට ඉන්වෙස්ටිගේට් කරලා ගන්න වෙනවා. If you want, you can write to International Maritime Bureau, IMB, in London. Every bank must be having their quota with IMB to check the BL. Use that and check the BL. Authenticity of the BL. Right? That must be a forged document. Right? ඒකද මට මේ document checker කෙනෙක් කියන්නේ I'm always telling that. Document checking is not a science. It's an art. Document checking is not a science. It's an art. What do you mean by that? The doctor again should have this. When they are checking document checking is not a science, it's an art. If it is a science, you all have learned Archimedes' theory, Boyle's law. Boyle गिनने के लिए अभी इतना करता नहीं? ये तो बड़ा मैं कम करते में Newton's law. 3 laws of Newton. ඒවා අපි ඇවිල්ලා වෙනස් වෙන්නේ නැහැ. බොයිල් කිරීම කියන එක වෙනස් වෙන්නේ නැහැ. වායු පීඩනය සම්බන්ධයෙන්. තවත් එකක් අපි ගත්තොත් එහෙම තවත් මොන හරි මට දැන් මතක නැහැ. ඔය වගේ මේ සයන්ස් වල තියෙන theories, laws අපි ඉගෙන ගන්නවා. Faraday ඒව ගන්නවා අපි. Joule's law එක ගන්නවා. ඔය ඔක්කොම අපි අරගන්නවානේ ෆිසික්ස් කරද්දී. ඉතින් ඒව අරගෙන අපි ඒ law එකක් තියෙනවා. ඒකේ ෆෝමියුලා එකක් දාලා අපි ඒක හදන්නේ. It's a law. But when it comes to art කරපු කට්ටිය ඔයගොල්ලෝ දන්නවා. If you have been asked to write a essay, or if you have been asked to do your review on a book, you can give one review, I can give one review. There's no hard and fast rules. There are no laid down procedures. How I see and how you see, that's the problem. That's the issue, right? And we have to prove that my theory is correct. What I'm saying is correct. It's an art, right? So don't be when we go for document checking, don't be a rigid person. Always go by the UCP 600, ISBP 781. ඒවා කට පාඩම් කරගෙනම කරන්න යන්න එපා. හොඳට බලන්න. With an open mind, open eyes, the open mind එක යන්න ඕන. Right? ඉතින්දී ඒක බලලා තමයි කරන්න ඕන. Other than the commercial invoice, description of goods, services or performance may be stated in generative. අයියෝ, grandfather clock එක මම එතනම කියලා තියෙනවා. මාත් එක දැක්කනේ. Generative. Disregard documents not required by LC and may be returned. Very, very important thing. Disregard documents not required by LC and may be returned. A lot of negotiation bank people, the beneficiaries bank, when they receive documents from the beneficiary, at the counter, before they give the acknowledgement, first they'll have to see whether all the documents are there. Right? Accept and you have how many days to check the document and transmit it to issuing bank? How many days?
5 banking days.
5 banking days. 5 banking days you have. Right? So when you are checking the documents, you will come across certain documents, right? Like you say, inspection certificate එකක් තියෙනවා. LC එකේ ඉල්ලලා නැහැ. Right? තව මොන හරි confirmation එකක් තියෙනවා. LC එකේ ඉල්ලලා නැහැ. ඒවා අපි check කරන්න බෑනේ. Against what we have to check? Well, we have not asked for those documents. So those documents, the best thing is to return it back to the beneficiary. Return it back to the beneficiary. Right? එහෙම නැතුව මේ කිසිම මේක ගන්න එපා. දැන් ඒකට ඒගොල්ලෝ කියයි එවන්ට මේක යවන්න ඕන beneficiary යවන්න ඕන. මොකද හේතුව මේ document එක නැතුව ඒ customs link clear කරන්න බෑ කියනවා. මේ packing list එක නැතුව clear කරන්න බෑ කියන මේ LC එකේ තිබුණේ නැහැ. Then you have to take a decision either to send it without checking, right? But we don't know whether issuing bank will what it has a discrepancy. It's another issue, right? Or else my advice to you is to return it back to the beneficiary and ask them to send direct to the importer by a special courier. Finish. So when the importer collects the documents from the bank and before he goes to the customs, he can insert that document also to the whatever the documents. What he has to present it to the customs. Right? ඒකේ විතර කරන්නේ. කලින් ඒවා plan කරගන්න ඕනේ ඒවා. Last moment කරලා ඉවරලා upset කරන්න එපා. ඔක්කොම delay වෙනවා. And disregard non-documentary conditions. Non-documentary condition. The මේ වගේ non-documentary conditions. If a credit contains if a credit contains a condition without stipulating the documents to indicate compliance with the conditions, banks will deem such condition as not stated and will disregard it. Right? These are generally referred to as non-documentary credit, non-documentary conditions. අපි කියනවා මේ goods to be dispatched within goods නෙමෙයි අපි මෙහෙම මේ වගේ අපි කියමු shipping documents to be dispatched within 5 days from the onboard date. Shipping documents to be dispatched to the issuing bank within 5 days from the date of shipment or onboard date. ඒක තියෙනවා. දැන් අපි කොහොමද මේක කරන්නේ? We have not asked for any documentary support. We have not asked for any documentary support එක කරන්නේ. Right? එතකොට අපිට මේක වැඩක් නැහැ. Just a wording to say, dispatch it within 5 days from the date of shipment. It's a non-documentary condition. There's no documentary evidence to that. But if you say documents to be dispatched within 5 days from the shipment date and a beneficiary's certificate to that effect to be attached and a beneficiary's certificate to that effect to be attached. Now there's a documentary evidence. We have to dispatch and then we have to have a beneficiary's certificate confirming that we have done it. At least some document. It's a documentary condition. It's a non-documentary condition. Right? Then documents may be dated prior to issuance date of LC, but not later than the date of presentation. Again, අරකට තව non-documentary එකට මේ non-documentary condition එකට තව උදාහරණයක් තියන්නේ මෙන්න මේ වගේ එකක්. If we say goods are to be of German origin. Goods are to be of German origin. But we have not asked for any certificate of origin. Certificate of origin is not called for. They were like that. අපි කොහොමද දන්නේ මේක ජර්මන් ඔරිජින් ද නැද්ද කියලා? ඒක ප්‍රූව් කරන්න නම් සර්ටිෆිකේට් ඔරිජින් එක තියෙන්න ඕන. රයිට්? ඒක කලින් එකට. මේක documents may be dated prior to issuance date of LC, but not later than date of presentation. right? It is clear. Documents may be dated prior to issuance of the LC. We can do, but not later than the date of present. Date of presentation is 13th September. Then you can't have any documents dated after 13th September. It has to be prior to the presentation date. Right? තියෙන තව එක වැරද්දක් තමයි අපි කියනවා මේ LC එක අරින්නත් කලින් මේ documents date කළා කියලා. ඒක ප්‍රශ්නයක් නැහැ. UCP 600 maximum of 5 banking days following day of presentation, not curtailed or affected by other events. Make it in Uganda. Look at me. Make a pretty make a deal. Do not make a Uganda net. There not UCP 600 get Monday documents do nana. Make a very important part. Very important part. A lot of people are making mistake. If the customer has submitted the documents on Monday, the clock start triggering from Tuesday, not from Monday. Excluding that day. Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday, Friday. Then Saturday, Sunday, holidays. Then Monday. Monday is the 5th working day. So before Monday, the next Monday, we'll have to submit it. It is clear? මේකේ අපි කොයිලාකවත් මේ 5 banking days තියාගන්නේ නැහැ. මම මේ කතා කරන්නත් වෙදී කැමති නැහැ. මොකද සමහර customers ලා මේක අදන් යනවා bank එක fight කරන්න. banks උත් මේක තියාගන්නවා ඒගොල්ලන්ට cover එකට. දෙකම වැරදි. දෙන්නම වැරදි. There's nothing to say we can keep 5 banking days කියලා නැහැ. It has to be immediate, right? මේකේ ගොඩක් තියෙනවා. Article 14 අපිට ඉවර කරන්න පුළුවන් නම් මරු. Presentation period. Presentation including an original transport document must be made not later than 21 calendar days after date of shipment. Presentation including an original transport document must be made not later than 21 calendar days. ඒක දන්නවනේ. අපේ normally all the when you are doing a presentation, it has to be within 21 days from the original bill of lading. On-board date එකේ ඉඳන් on-board date එකේ ඉඳන් within 21 days තමයි complied presentation එකක් වෙන්නේ. Right? But 21 days is not always. That is if nothing has mentioned about the presentation date. If the LC has mentioned presentation 10 days from the shipment date, 10 days from the shipment date, then that 21 days issue will not applicable. Then it has to be 10 days, right? Then the transport documents subject to Article 19 to 25, data not conflicting. Data in a document must not conflict with data in that document, other stipulated documents or the LC. So every document has to be compatible with each other. Unspecified issue or content, unspecified issue or content, other than invoice, transport document or insurance document, banks will accept the documents if its contents appear to fulfill the functions, and 2, it complies with 14D. What is 14D? 14D says data in a document, when read in context with the credit, the document itself and international standard banking practice need not be identical to, but must not conflict with data on the document in other stipulated documents or the credit. When it comes to invoice has to be issued by the beneficiary. That's a must. Transport document has to be issued by the shipping company, transport agent. Insurance document must be issued by the insurance company or the agent. Right? The bank will accept the other documents if the content appear to be fulfill the function. Right? Then, unless otherwise, if you are not specified, inspection certificate to be obtained by SGS. Right? Society General of Survey, SGS again, Nemenang, Hemakila Natta, any inspection certificate is applicable. Beneficiary wife, right? Okay. Examples, LC calls for inspection certificate. Inspection certificate, goods have been inspected and are certified to be in order. Goods have been inspected and are certified to be in order. Right? Accept inspection certificate goods are certified to be of Singapore origin. Right? Goods have been inspected and are certified to be in order. If it fulfills the function, then we'll have to accept it. Right? Addresses of beneficiary and applicant. A new one. Addresses of beneficiary and applicant need not be the same between the stipulated document and the credit, but must be within the same country as in the credit. Very important. Addresses of beneficiary and applicant. Now, Samudu, are you there?
Yes, sir.
Yeah. Samudu, now your company, Apitamogulangi company, give me one example of one of your ladies group company. Hekab can, we take Hekab. Hekab is situated at Maravilla. Hekab factory Maravilla. But Hekab head office is Dean's Road again.
Dean's Road. Yes.
Well, my uncle was the GM one time, saying in the Mandan, right? It's a Hekab again. Then they come at Dean's Road, Maravilla. Then Maravilla to the LC get in a address like Maravilla, Hekab Maravilla. But the documents issue current in Hekab beneficiary address like Dean's Road. No issue. But there's one issue, that is both addresses should be within the same country. The way Hekab began, common have the Saman ladder up in LC are in a office to get the Munaturu Cote. Documents have Locomagon, the Master say we have shifted to some other places, Pitacote. It can't be the same address. It would take a discrepant when in a partner them take a very right? Disregard contact details of beneficiary and applicant, fax, phone, email stated in the credit. Right? ISBP 61. However, if they form part of consignee and notify party details in transport document, applicant's contact details must be as stated in the credit. If they form a part of consignee and notify party details, then it has to be as per the LC details. Now, letter of credit, LC says applicant ABC Incorporation, Temax Avenue, Singapore, blah, 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 Central Tower, Singapore. Be able to notify applicant. Be able to notify applicant. Right? That's what a bill of lading notify ABC Incorporated. ABC Incorporated. 10 Coleman Street, Singapore. LC get be able to notify applicant. The applicant can Singapore. Right? Then here we have mentioned BL notify කරලා තියෙන්නේ Coleman Street, Singapore. ඒක වැරදි. ඒක වැරදි. මොකද LC එකේ විදිහටම notify part එක තියෙනවා. Invoice එකේ තියෙනවා bill ABC Incorporated, Coleman Street, Singapore. Singapore is the same country. Secretary same country. Fax number so වෙන fax number එකයි telephone number එකයි Singapore නෑ fax numbers වෙනස් වෙනකොට Singapore තියෙන්නේ ABC Incorporated. ඒක අපි accept කරනවා. Bill of lading එකේ ගත්තොත් එහෙම අරකේ විදියටම තියෙනවා නම් LC එකේ විදියටම දීලා තියෙනවා නම් then it is correct. Right? ගොඩක් අය මේවා discrepancies solve වෙනවා. Shipper, consignor and transport document issuer. Shipper, consignor, transport document issuer. Shipper or consignor of goods indicated on any documents need not be the LC beneficiary, but must be consistent among all documents. Right? Now the LC says beneficiary ABC company. Bill of lading says shipper XYZ company. No issue. Certificate of origin XYZ company. Right? No issue. Certificate of origin shipper ABC company limited. Right? Certificate of origin shipper shipper ABC company limited. මොකද දැන් එතන වෙනස් කරගන්න බෑ. දැන් අතන shipper XYZ company BL එකේ එතන certificate of origin XYZ company එතන අපි shipper එන්නේ XYZ company. මෙතන shipper ABC company limited. ඇයි ඒක වැරදුනේ? ඒක වැරදුනේ. මට ඒක මගේ question mark එකක් තියෙනවා. What do you think? Make for transferable credit, this is the way. We open the LC, the original transferable LC, to the beneficiary ABC company. Then they will transfer it to XYZ company. They will transfer it to XYZ company, the second beneficiary. The second beneficiary is the one who will ship the goods. Then obviously the bill of lading, the shipper will be named as XYZ company. Right? Then the shipper will be XYZ company. If the BL says shipper XYZ company, right? එහෙමනම් certificate of origin වෙන්න ඕනේ shipper XYZ company ම තමයි. Right? ඉතින් argument එක ඔයගොල්ලන් දැන් තේරෙනවද argument එක? In a transferable LC, this is the original thing happening in a transferable LC. LC beneficiary is ABC company. Bill of lading, shipper XYZ company. The second beneficiary has shipped the goods. And when they submit certificate of origin, transferable LC, we can't change that. No, it is given by the second beneficiary. Here they have, when they issue the certificate of origin, they will mention the shipper as the XYZ company. If they are not submitted, then this last certificate of origin is not the original one. It has not been submitted by the second beneficiary because it says Shipper ABC company. That's wrong. Shipper is XYZ company. Then it can't be ABC company. That's the main reason why it is wrong. Make logically argue apply transferable LC theory to this one. You can understand. Okay. Then Article 15 Article 15 Northla Methane 39 වෙනකන් පාඩම් කරගෙන එන්න. ආටිකල්ස් ටික පාඩම් කරගෙන එන්න. ආටිකල්ස් ටික පාඩම් කරගෙන ආවම අපිට මේක තව ඉක්මනට ඩිස්කස් කර කර යන්න පුළුවන්. Right? Okay. Anything else you want to discuss? Dylan, any questions? අන්තිමක මටත් ගැටලුවක් ආවට ඩක් ගාලා අපි ගැටලුව විසඳ ගන්න ඕනයි. කොහෙන්ද? Is it logically, is it correct කියන එක. Right? Okay. If you don't have any questions, we'll call it a day.